Good evening, family of life in the dark. Sorry. It's been a long day for me today. According to genetics research from technology, September 30th, 2020, genetic variant associated with severe COVID-19 is inherited from Neanderthals. Now, what exactly is Neanderthal? Neanderthals are not necessarily these creatures that we see that they be drawn a picture of, looking like half ape, half man. But it actually is a more hideous creature that they depict in several different movies we see over time. One in particular is, what's that one? I think it was a mini series they used to have, but it's much like the Sasquatch, more like the Sasquatch. A new study published in Nature suggests that a segment of DNA that has been linked to an increased risk of developing severe COVID-19 is inherited from Neanderthal ancestors. What's the deal with chromosome 3? Why do some COVID-19 patients present as asymptomatic whilst others, contract the virus and ultimately die? This question has been a focus of scientists across the globe over the last 9 months, and despite extensive research, we still lack a confident answer. Nonetheless, genomics research has contributed largely to what we do know so far about COVID-19 clinical variability. In June, Alangus and colleagues published the results of a large genome-wide associated study, GWAS, analyzing COVID-19 patients across 7 hospitals in Italy and Spain. The scientists identified a specific gene cluster on chromosome 3 as a genetic susceptibility locus in COVID-19 patients that had respiratory failure, in addition to a genetic region on chromosome 9, which determines an individual's blood group. What is GWAS? A GWAS is a particular method of study adopted in genetics research. It involves studying a sample of individuals who are classified based on a particular phenotype. Having a disease or not having a disease that undergo genetic analysis via single nucleotide polymorphism, S&P arrays, which probes their DNA for specific genetic variants. If a variant occurs in a higher frequency in certain phenotypes when compared to other phenotypes, the variant is classed as being associated with the phenotype associated. Implies a link, but it does not prove causation. Okay? Inside mitochondria and their fascinating gnome. In September, Personal Genomics and biotechnology company 23andMe shared results that from the first 4 months of its COVID-19 genetic study of over 1 million individuals. Once again, the scientists identified as an association at the CHR3P21.31 locus with disease severity. This association was particularly strong in phenotypes relating to respiratory clinical signs. What is the role of this gene cluster? Where has it come from? And why is it associated with increased disease severity in COVID-19 patients? The what and the why are still being explored, but scientists may have an answer as to where the clusters has come from, Neanderthals. Historical insights for a modern day pandemic. Hugo Zeberg is an assistant professor at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden. He studies gene flow from Neanderthals and Denisovans into modern humans, specifically in relation to the impact of genetic variability. Together with one of the founders of the Genetics, Vaughn Pabel, director of the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, Zedberg has published a study in Nature reporting that the gene cluster on chromosome 3 associated with higher risk of severe COVID-19 respiratory signs is very similar to the DNA sequence of 50,000-year-old Neanderthal. It turns out that this gene variant was inherited by modern humans from the Neanderthals when they interbred some 60,000 years ago, said Zedberg in a press release. Today, the people who inherited this gene variant are 3 times more likely to need artificial ventilation if they are infected by a novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2. Zedberg and Pabel also explored the frequency of the gene cluster in modern humans. Their results show that approximately half of the population in South Asia carry the variant, whereas in Europe, only 1 in 6 individuals are carriers. In Africa and East Asia, interestingly, the variant is almost completely absent. The highest frequency occurs in Bangladesh, where 63% of the population carry at least 1 copy of the risk variant, and 13% are Huigos. In paper, the authors comment, the Neanderthal haplotype may thus be substantial contributor to COVID-19 risk in certain populations besides other risk factors, most notably advanced age. And apparent agreement with this, individuals of Bangladesh origin in the UK have about 2 times higher risk to die from COVID-19 than the general population. Hazard ratio 95%. The study of Zedberg and Pabel does not provide an explanation as to why this particular variant is associated with a higher risk of severe COVID-19, but the researchers believe their findings are of historical interest and should be explored further. It is striking that the genetic heritage from the Neanderthals has such tragic consequences during the current pandemic. While this must be investigated as quickly as possible, says Vaughn Pabel. Such research may often insights as to why our Neanderthal ancestors were either susceptible or unsusceptible to pathogens that inhabited the earth at that time. Let me make a side note. Yesterday in my other video, I spoke about how nature is not on the side of a particular type of consciousness. And I'm going to get into the two consciousness again. I got in it on a previous video about Genesis and about the different creations, the two different creations, which was a consciousness, a type of consciousness. Okay. Reference. These are the references. I'm glad that wasn't a long article. I know that, right? But family, like we always try to say, or try to put out, that there's been a conspiracy against us since day one, since before they picked us up. They've always conspired for this planet, for this world. And many of our people don't seem to get it. Many of them think that they, in their minds, somehow, they're in their comfort. They got the creature comfort, and they think that everything is fine. But we're not in a fine condition. We're not in a everything is fine condition whatsoever. And as I said, I do so heartedly think that we're being tested. We've been tested here on how strong gods and goddesses we are. Are we capable of being gods and goddesses? Because the whole thing is, many of our people don't want to keep their first estate, and they allow this society to tell them that our estate is not good enough as their estate is. And we end up not having self-love for ourselves, or a lot of self-hate for our existence, our being, our current being, state of being. And instead of doing something constructive about it, we do destructive things. So what I'm saying is, in the scheme of everything, we have to use what we've been given, and that's the mind. And the mind, as I always say, is a very powerful thing. If we know we have the strong genetics that can defeat any disease, but yet we think, we allow ourselves to be deterred. We allow ourselves to be deterred by things that are, we might as well say, like what they say, the devil. With that said, true love, real peace, the higher self within the soul. Till next time, family, peace.